Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Weekend Wrap Up. It is July 6th, 2024. I'm David Thomas. Mr. Josh Blevins sitting next to me. Josh, another busy week.
Another busy week. Actually, honestly, a holiday week, so not as many meetings as we normally go to in a week. But we did have a little fireworks a couple days ago out at the park, and kind of a long weekend almost. The way it fell on a Thursday, kind of made for a weird week.
Friday felt like a day off, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't. Yeah, so most people had to work on Friday. I took most of Friday off, but yeah, most people were working.
Yeah, some people got it made.
Some people got it made.
Well, before we dive in, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance. We appreciate them, and we'll be back. And Josh, you've got a lot of stuff for us to talk about.
We got plenty to talk about, even on a holiday week.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be right back.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to welcome you back to the Weekend Wrap-Up Show. And Josh, it's an interesting thing that you're going to start off with this morning. One of our local newspapers is actually in the news.
They're in our news anyways, David.
Exactly.
Friday, actually, I learned something new, which I turned 48 a couple weeks ago, and you would think, at some point you'd stop learning new things, but I learned something on Friday.
What'd you learn, Josh?
What I learned was, if you get a newspaper, which we have one here, Bedford County Post this week, and I actually picked up the newspaper Tuesday evening and read the article on the front cover, City Lawsuit Leads to Funding Uncertainty and Rising Legal Fees. And it says, staff reports. What would you think staff reports
Somebody
means?
with the Bedford Post that writes articles wrote an article.
Or somebody's staff somewhere reported something. Right. So I read the article and I said, man, that article's awful one-sided. You expect a little bit of balance. You're reading the newspaper. You figure it's news. So I shot an email to our friend who's the, I guess he'd be the interim editor of the paper. I said, hey, who wrote this article? Doesn't read like a normal news article. He's like, oh, that's a press release from the Better Bedford PAC, Political Action Committee.
Okay.
So even though it's on the front of the newspaper, I didn't realize staff reports meant it's a press release.
Maybe they're on staff now.
They're not on staff. It's a press release. So if you go down to the bottom of the front page, you've also got County Commission approves 2024-25 that also says staff reports. That's press release, I'm going to guess, from the county, judging by the wording.
Yeah, definitely. County wrote that.
Yeah, it's actually on their Facebook or website, I think, just about the same wording. So on the front of our local paper, we had one article written by a reporter and two press releases. So just if you didn't know, which I've read a lot of newspapers, I just assumed staff reports meant, maybe a couple people worked on it. Maybe they got some information from somewhere else and they massaged it or something. But this article is a straight up press release from the Better Bedford PAC. So,
well, I'm quite sure you dove into it.
I did dive into the article. And so now knowing where the article comes from, let's talk about the content. As I said, I read through it and it felt awfully one-sided. It clearly, the writer, whoever the actual individual was, which we don't know who that was, it was somebody writing for the PAC, feels like in the lawsuit issue over the local option sales tax that the county is 100% in the right and the city is 100% in the wrong. So as with all issues, there's probably a little more gray area than that.
Right.
So I'm going to go to a particular quote from the article, and we're going to dive into some of the numbers. This quote comes midway down the article. It says, if the city is successful in the lawsuit, then the taxpayers will have to replace that dollar amount, the dollar amount being $2 million. This single action by the city in filing this lawsuit will force all property owners to pay a higher property tax.
Okay.
So reading more around that, what the writer of the article said is that due to maintenance of effort, which is a law in the state,
right,
the county has to spend the same amount of money in the next year
That
as they did in the previous
right.
year on schools. There's actually a lot of other issues.
Right. I think that comes
that
through
involve
the
maintenance
81
of
Act,
effort.
I believe, in it, Josh. Doesn't that come along with that?
I don't know if that's tied to that. It is, but maintenance of effort applies in a lot of different areas.
Right.
We've got maintenance of effort on like library funding. We found out this year
Right.
you can't give her a library less than you did the year before.
Right.
So, so I dove into our Bedford County, Tennessee budget
Yes.
for the upcoming year, the year that actually just started a couple days ago, and got the actual numbers on maintenance of effort. Our maintenance of effort for our school system, and I'm going to round a little bit rather than leave these long numbers, is $19.5 million
Right.
for the year that just started in July. In this year, we're going to spend $13.1 million out of property tax and other taxes in our general school budget, our 141 school budget. So that's not enough to hit the maintenance of effort, which is 19.5. We're about $6.4 million short.
Okay.
So in the 151 debt service fund, that's where the rest of that local option sales tax goes. On the budget, we've got $10.5 million in local option sales tax going into debt service.
So now
this
you
year.
can pull the 6 out of that to
out
meet
of
your
that
maintenance of effort.
10.5. So to reach our maintenance of effort for this year, we've got to find an additional $6.4 billion. We got 10.5. I think 10.5 on my calculator more than covers the 6.4 that we're short there.
I believe so.
I think so. So let's think about that $2 million that the city's trying to get back. If you took that $2 million out of that 10.5, by my calculator, you'd still have 8.5, which I think covers your 6.4 million maintenance of effort. So saying that the lawsuit is going to force property owners to pay us higher property tax is not mathematically accurate. I would go so far as to say, and this might be a little controversial for those on the county side, that this local option sales tax that the city's trying to claw back, at least for the 3 years that I've reviewed the budget for, is not being spent on education.
Yeah.
It's not being spent at all. It's going into fund balance and sitting there and drawing interest. In fiscal year 23, we had a $9.7 million surplus in our debt service account. In fiscal year 24, which just ended, we haven't got the final numbers, but as of the May 31st financials, we had a $9.4 million surplus.
Yeah.
And the budget that we just looked at there a second ago, we've got a $2.8 million surplus budgeted. And actually, that number is going to go way higher because our budget is very conservative. We're going to make at least another $1 million in local option sales tax. We're probably $2 or $3 million short in budgeted interest. So there's plenty of margin there for this money to go away and not be forced to charge a higher property tax. Now, big key here is we're not, and I'm not, I mean, David can speak for himself. I'm not proposing or in favor of this lawsuit in any way, shape, or form. Nor am I saying that the city's right or the county's right or either one is right. But the fact that the PAC put out this article with these quotes, these numbers are not accurate. This gets back to some of that fuzzy math that we looked at a few months ago when we went and the county borrowed $10.4 million to build $9 million worth of projects. So
well, I think everybody wants this lawsuit to end.
Absolutely.
Right now. We just put a poll up yesterday, and right now, 81% of the people that have taken the poll, I don't know if they're city residents or county, really doesn't matter. It's people that look at their local government and say, we shouldn't sue ourselves. We shouldn't be suing one government entity in the same county, shouldn't be suing the other. Okay. On the other hand, the county is in good shape. Basically, based on your numbers, and you're looking at the surplus here, $2 million is like, no big deal. Now, I know that the county don't want to give up anything. I get that. But
they're dug in, and they don't want to negotiate on this at all. Actually, I talked early on in this process. I spoke with our county mayor on this particular lawsuit, and he told me one of his, I can't remember the word he used, but one of his, basically his unmovable points is he does not want to fracture the current local option sales tax agreement with the city. He doesn't want to make any changes to that agreement in any way, shape, or form. What I'm here to propose is, and I'm just a guy on YouTube and Facebook and, just your social media dude, is we're going to have the David and Josh book club today.
All right.
I'm going to propose that our local government officials, city and county both, I'm going to recommend to you the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Stephen R. Covey. This book turned 35 years old this year. One of the classics in leadership. It's a great business book. If you're anywhere in the business world, it's an amazing book. And we're going to go to one particular habit. Habit 4: think win-win.
Right.
You got 6 paradigms of human interaction. You got win-win, which is what we're going to propose here. You got win-lose, which is where you feel like you've got to win, but the other guy's got to lose. You got lose-win, where you always want to be the victim. You lose and let the other guy win. You got lose-lose, where you're like, well, if they're going to lose, I'm going to lose too. Or I'm going to burn the whole place down.
Right.
You got your win people that are just like, I got to win at any cost. Yeah, I don't care what goes on. And then the other one is win-win or no deal, which is another version of win-win.
I think we find ourselves in just that win from both sides.
I think both are either win, or I think we've got some win-lose people too.
Yeah.
They're like, not only am I going to win, that other guy's got to lose.
Right.
So I think, and as was proposed again 35 years ago by Stephen Covey, in most of these situations, if you get a group of intelligent people, sit down in the room, hash this out, there's a solution that both sides could win. And I'm going to propose just one myself today, just a guy that's on the internet, that's read a lot of this stuff, been to a lot of meetings. We're fighting over 0.75% of sales tax right now. That's currently, quote unquote, going to education. It is, however, going into debt service, where it could fund construction for education.
Right.
Numbers we just read in the last couple of years, it's not even gone on construction projects yet. It's sitting there earning interest. How about if we take that 3/4, we leave 1/4 of it where it's at in debt service, we give 1/4 of it to our general school fund, our 141, which increases immediately the money going to our schools and our teachers. Real quick on teachers, there's a group on Facebook that I've joined. It's Adopt a Teacher or something.
Right, yeah.
Our Bedford County teachers are having to get out on Facebook and beg for people to go on their Amazon wish list and buy them products for their classroom. That is pathetic.
Yes.
We shouldn't have our teachers out there begging for supplies.
Otherwise, they have to pay for it out of their pocket.
They're paying for it out of their pocket. If we took this 0.25% that's sitting in debt service, moved it into the 141 account, which is going to require us fracturing the sales tax agreement, that immediately increases funding to schools and could go for school supplies. And that 0.75%, we do what the city is asking for, give it back to the cities. That not only helps the city of Shelbyville, that helps the city of Ward Trace, that helps the city of Bell Buckle, that helps all of our cities in the county, gives them an additional revenue stream going forward. And that move doesn't cost enough money to make our debt service fund be in the red. We've still got money to operate debt service. We've increased our funding directly going to schools, and we've given some revenue stream to the cities. Everybody's winning. Nobody's losing. Go home and, move on.
And the only people that lose in this are 2 attorneys.
Yeah, and that's who's winning right now.
That's right.
If you want to win-win, you got 2 attorneys in Nashville winning our tax money.
We're in a lose-lose situation.
We're losing right now.
And based on the threat in the newspaper, that's a threat.
That's a threat.
I'll look at it as, okay, if you keep going down the lawsuit and you lose, then we're going to raise, and you win, we're going to raise taxes, regardless.
And make the whole county lose.
Whether you want it or not, we're going to do it.
Yeah, and the wording that it's going to force property owners to pay a tax. The only one that's going to be forcing it is whoever makes the decision to raise those property taxes. And maintenance of effort does not require them to raise those property taxes because, again, there's a surplus in that account. And the money that the city and the county are fighting over is not enough to bridge that surplus dollar amount.
And you've laid out, actually, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, we could go.
You've got teachers in the middle here that are going to win.
That could win as well. So
they're not going to have to.
And that's just one possible. And that all I'm saying is, if we got some smart people in the room and they weren't so set in their way of I've got to win, the other guy's got to lose, and they were looking for a solution where everybody won, there are solutions out there. And as you said, the only one win-winning right now is two big sets of lawyers up in Nashville that are
Right.
getting some nice lease payments on their
Right.
BMWs because
And
we're sending them a bunch
they're
of
probably
money.
going out and having steak together and that laughing.
They may
about it.
be. They may be eating that.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is a political maneuver.
Right.
Okay, you know how I know? Because it's a political action committee that wrote that.
And that's the other point here. So early on was it a week ago we found out about this pack? Maybe 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
I came out pretty quick and said, I'm skeptical of this pack. And I got attacked online saying, oh, they haven't even done anything. You got to give them a chance.
Here we are.
They've done something now. They wrote a press release. It ran in the newspaper. They picked a side in the argument. They've attached their wagon to this horse, which is the current sitting county government, their decisions. They've chosen to go with them over, who's sitting on the city side of the equation. There was no balance attempted in this article. They made a decision where they're going. So, I continue to be skeptical of the pack.
Okay, I would say, practice what you're preaching on this. No stubbornness. Okay,
Right.
let's get in the room and work this out. Just everybody throw the stubbornness away.
Right.
That's what the residents of this city and county want. It's obvious, okay, with the poll that we've got going, and it's going to keep going. I think it's telling that you've got representatives that will just totally ignore what the people that are representing actually want done.
Right.
We want win here.
Yeah, we want to win. We don't want.
And I'm speaking as one of them. Okay?
We're paying these taxes
Right.
that are going to these attorneys up in Nashville. So that not necessarily a news item that happened during the week, but it was kind of a lesson I learned. So again, if you read the newspaper and it says staff reports, that's a press release, probably not straight news. You may want to be a little skeptical of what you read.
Well, that's news. That's news, Josh.
That's what's considered news, I guess. It was in the paper. If it's printed in the paper, it's got to be true.
Right.
So,
of course.
Actual events that happened this week. There was only one meeting all week. So, which, like I said, holiday week. That was good for me. More time at home.
Yeah.
So, Tuesday evening, City Council study session met at 6:00. Had a lot of things discussed at the study session. Actually, I've got an agenda right here, so I don't miss anything. Early up, we announced a tentative ribbon cutting for Borough Bullets. They've been posting updates on Facebook. I don't know if you've seen them. I've reposted a couple of them. They're hard at work on the building. And tentatively, the end of July, I think somebody mentioned the 24th. We don't have an exact date yet, but late in July, we're going to ribbon cut the bullet shop.
I'm anxious to see who shows up for that ribbon cutting.
It seems to be a city-sponsored ribbon cutting, so I'm going to say it's going to be mainly city officials. I don't know if anybody from the county will show up. I'd recommend they do. I mean, it's a good, nice, small business that's moved into the area. So, as we've discussed often, if you live in the city, you still got county commissioners.
Right.
So hopefully at least the county commissioners that represent that area will come out. Next up was discussed that MTSU has exercised their option on adjacent property at the airport. So we had bought an additional piece of property connected to the property that was already being planned for the MTSU flight school, with the thinking that they would possibly need more property in the future. We gave them a year to consider it.
Yep.
And they came back and they did the paperwork and they exercised their option. So they're going to use all of the property that the city bought for the flight school. They're going to use it, including this additional parcel. Didn't hear any dollar figures as far as they're going to be paying a lease payment on it. I mean, they're not using it for free. So, yeah. So this is good that we spend taxpayer money on the property, and that we're actually going to get our money back. So that was good. And then kind of the bigger thing on the agenda, which I think you've got the paperwork for it there, was the Riverview District. Phase 1 is about to be initiated.
Yeah, it's interesting to look over some of the stuff.
It's an interesting packet of what's going on. If you don't know where it's at, it's kind of at the back corner where South Spring Street and McGrew Street come together.
The southwest corner of the square.
Yep. City's looking to acquire 2 pieces of property there on the edge of the river. And if all that goes through, they are going to extend the parking lot of the Fly Center, which currently has 38 parking spaces. And it's going to loop up and around, and they'll have a total of 120 parking spaces.
Yeah, it'll be right in that 90-degree bend in the road there.
The bend in the road. It kind of will follow the bend of the road. They're also going to move the utilities underground, which is in keeping with what they did on the square a couple of years ago with grant money, so that everything's underground, so you're not dealing with power lines and a bunch of stuff above ground. And the reason for that is we've got 2 businesses under construction there. One supposedly very close to open. You got the Glass Hollow, Tavern and something. and I can't remember the full name. And then you've got the Grindstone Cowboy, which is under construction, but looks like it still needs a lot of work.
Right.
But when those are both open at the same time, you're going to need some parking.
This will provide 51 extra spots plus what's added onto that
Onto
green space.
Yeah. So it's a big jump, 120 spots, and that'll be really useful for those two restaurants that are within easy walking distance of this parking
And
lot.
speaking of walking, I know at one time they had planned on shutting this street down through right by at that corner between Grindstone Cowboy and Glass Hollow Tavern.
Yeah.
So are they still going to do that, Josh?
They didn't discuss whether or not they're going to shut it down. Now, phase 2 of this, which is not on the radar yet, they don't have a date to start it, will include ornamental lighting in the district, which would be street lamps to match what's on the square, and then these hanging string lights across
Christmas
that
lights
road.
is what I call them.
Alley string lights is what they're calling. They're also wanting to partner with area garden clubs to do a nice landscaping in that area, and then also a staging area for concerts and special events. So really nothing in the wording said that they were still planning on closing it down to pedestrian traffic. But if you got the dangling lights and the stage and all that,
traffic in there.
They may still be planning on that. So honestly, I don't know either way. But in the budget that was just approved a week or two ago, we've already got $750,000 in there to begin this project. So they can move forward, assuming they're able to acquire this property. They've got money set aside for this year to go ahead and start this phase 1. So, and that'll be a big deal.
Did you hear any insight on how long this is going to take before all of this comes together? Are we looking 2 years down the road, you think, Josh?
I would think, because I don't think that money's enough to do phase 2. I don't even know if it's enough to cover all of phase 1. So we've got enough probably in this year's budget. Maybe we buy the property and hopefully can get some or all of that parking in, but it may be a year forward before we get to that phase 2. So, but when it's all done, it should be nice. You have two nice restaurants, you got a lot of parking, you're right there on the square. If you've been in the square in the evening, most evenings that place is dead. Everything's closed. So it'd be nice to have some stuff to liven up the square in the evening.
Here's the thing. These people that have invested this type of money at the Glass Hall Tavern and over at Grindstone, we have got to support. We have to support these. Local people have got to be there. Now, hopefully we'll have adjacent counties coming in and seeing this as some sort of attraction, but we have to support it day in and day out for these businesses to be successful.
Yeah, if they don't have the sales numbers, you can't keep a restaurant open if you don't have people sitting there eating.
The restaurant business in general is tough to begin with.
It is.
And you're talking more upscale, so that means the folks are going to have to quit driving to Murfreesboro and stay home and support these businesses.
Yeah. So, and I'm excited about them. I think everybody in the city is excited about them. So we're really looking forward to that. So we'll keep you posted if we get any opening dates on Glass Hollow or hear anything else. We'll definitely post that as soon as we hear it.
But the consensus on that is before the celebration, which is
that's what they said. Yeah, was that they were hoping to be open by the celebration. So hopefully it's
6 weeks
close.
away.
It's close. Yeah. So we'll see. Next up on their agenda, they discussed, or actually really, there was a presentation given by planning on the new Lexington Cove PUD, which I don't know that we've gotten deeply discussed it on the show, but I did do a post on our Facebook, kind of laying out the pros and cons. It's like a lot of the other PUDs that have been coming into the area. Unfortunately, you're looking at small lots for your houses. You're looking at tight spacing, 15 feet between houses. They're having what they're calling cottages, which they're allowing 10 feet between those. So it's not the worst PUD we've seen. There's some that have been way worse. It's got good points. There's good parking. There's good traffic flow. But there are some things that, going forward, I hope we could fix. And actually, we'll talk about this in a few minutes when we get into the upcoming week. There's actually a meeting where the city's about to try to address some of what's going on with this development and the high density.
We've talked about this over and over and over, and I don't want to beat a dead horse.
Right.
But, this more rooftops seems to be the goal for both governments. That's just more tax revenue coming in, city taxes, county taxes, whatever. And we have to have the infrastructure. So I hope we can simultaneously improve our infrastructure as these things build out, because if not, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, that's the comment I see the most when we post. Actually, things that don't even necessarily have to do with new development. I always see these comments, hey, what's going on with the water issue? What's going on with the water issue?
Yeah.
I don't have any more insight into the water issue other than you and I both discussed the river. At some point, we got people pulling water all the way up and down the Duck River, and it's not just Shelbyville, it's all these other cities want that water. So at some point, it's going to have to be addressed. I know there's still that looming TDEC decision, which they've not made a decision yet.
We could still be a year out on that too.
It took them several years to even have the official public comments on it.
Just that question mark alone makes you wonder, is this the right thing?
Yeah.
So I know it doesn't happen all at once. I mean, it might take 5 years for this to build out.
Yeah, it's like I think they said 6 to 10 years for the full, and it's not the biggest one we've seen. It's 274 units, which is still a lot, though. I mean, that's basically almost 1,000 people moving into that area.
That's a lot of traffic. And here's the thing, I know, and this is the battle. I know when you go through this population increase like this in a small town, there's always going to be different opinions.
Right.
I have an opinion. I've lived here. I'd rather see the county keep its landscape as close to the rural area that it has been.
Sure. Yeah.
And when you start bringing this type stuff in, even though this is in the city, it changes the look and feel of things. And you look at Murfreesboro. I mean, in my lifetime, this is a completely different city.
Right. And kind of funny, I moved down here to get away from the city. I was trying to avoid the growth and the traffic. I lived in Antioch since 87 before I moved down here. And now we get down here, and the next thing you know, Murfreesboro's like coming down 231 like an oncoming train. So it's hard for me to say, man, I want to stop this because I'm part of the problem. I came down here to get away from it, and then I caused the population to go up. But on the other hand, if you look at some of those things that Murfreesboro did, and you're smart about it and try to make better decisions, you may end up with a better product if you put more thought into it on the front end. So I think it needs more planning, more thought, and like I said, more infrastructure investment, before it gets out of hand.
We've got to get those maps out quick and look at this now.
Right.
And we can't wait 2 or 3 years to change our planning map. We've got to do it now.
Right. Immediately. Yeah, absolutely. So that was it on the actual agenda, or at least things that were big enough that we're going to talk about them. But we got to the end of the agenda, and it said other business, and there was no other business on there. But some people had some other business they wanted to talk about. So most people that are watching us today have seen the clip that we put on our Facebook of Mr. Shane Hooper from the Shelbyville Bedford Partnership speaking at the county meeting a few weeks ago and discussing some of what the city's done with the Chamber of Commerce, a lot of issues over recent time. Well, the city council took issue with a lot of his positions, and they had a few things to say. So I brought a couple clips. I didn't bring all of it. If you go on our Facebook, we've got the entire 24 minutes. I'd recommend if you're interested in watch it all so you get all the context. And we don't have time to play 24 minutes. We're going to play 2 clips. We're going to let's start with Council Member Turnbow, and he had some pretty strong opinions on Mr. Hooper and what he had to say. So let's hear what he has.
Last year, so Mr. Hooper and the partnership decided the city of Shelbyville is the absolute worst place in this world. I've lived here for 67 years. I'm going to die here. It's not a bad place. My message to Shane Hooper and the partnership, if you don't like the city of Shelbyville, go back to Mississippi. They've done one thing to the city of Shelbyville, folks. They brought us a chemical factory that they call Project Cardinal to keep anybody from knowing what's going on. That's their greatest accomplishment. And now we're getting wore out on social media. We didn't do it. They kept it hid out. We even sat on the committee. Nobody, we getting y'all a new battery plant. Presto change, it's a chemical factory. And Shane Hooper run all the town in the partnership, David Coffey. Hey, David Coffey sits on one of our appointed boards, folks. He sits on the Power and Sewer Board. If he's not happy with the city shovel, turn in your resignation.
Wow.
Bobby had a lot of things to say there.
Yes, he did.
He he doesn't filter when he gets up and give a speech. He just tells it like it is.
Right.
So
You don't have to wonder what he's thinking.
You're not wondering, man, I wonder what he's thinking on this
No,
issue. He lays it right out there.
Yeah, he did.
So he was clear. If you agree with what he said, you're probably, clapping and saying, good job, Bobby. And if you don't agree, you're probably like, man, that guy went off on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's two ways you could look at it, but he wasn't unclear. I mean, he said clearly he doesn't agree with a lot of the decisions that have been made by the partnership, by Mr. Hooper. And his suggestion was, if they're not happy with what the city government's doing, get out of town. So I don't think that's probably the direction things are headed.
No,
but that was his offer to Mr. Hooper. As I said, we can't play the whole thing. We additionally, our city manager gave some good comments. Our Marilyn Ewing had some good things to say. Our mayor came out and had some good things to say. Yes. And all of them, again, recommend you watch those. But there was another side presented at the same meeting. We had Councilmember Feldhaus spoke near the end. And we're going to go ahead and play that just so we've got a little more balance and kind of another view of the same situation.
Two different views coming out here.
Yeah.
All right. Here's Mr. Feldhaus.
Yeah.
Being Shane Hooper, other than we when it was Cardinal, it was Cardinal. We didn't know the name. We didn't know the details. We have to let the system work. State of Tennessee has turned down twice now any kind of review for us. And I regret the vote we took last month personally, that we're now going to spend taxpayer money to kind of force them to do a review for us when it doesn't meet their standards. And the meeting you had the other day even confirms that to me even more, how the chemicals are just not going to sit there and be a time bomb, as Ms. Ewing says, because there are laws, there are codes. Our own building codes have life safety codes. Any professional architect or engineer involved in that construction project, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, will make certain this law is adhered to, because their license is on the line. And they're not going to stamp drawings, and they're not going to certify anything unless it meets those life safety codes. And from what we're hearing from the state of Tennessee, we really do not have life safety big time issues here. That's the reason that they're not willing to just help us jump on board, I guess, as some people want to do, and call it a chemical plant. Yes, it has chemicals. But I assure you, there are plants in this town that are much, much, much worse time bombs that are sitting here than Duxon will ever be.
Well, Josh, that's a little scary. A little bit. I mean, thinking there could be other plants in town that are more dangerous. I don't know. Maybe we need to look close at what's going on.
Well, the other ones, which I've heard this argument as well. We've got the Walmart DC has a bunch of ammonia used for the refrigeration. And if it got out and there's an ammonia cloud floating around town, that'd be bad.
Yeah.
And we got the same thing at Tyson. They use a lot of ammonia there for their refrigeration. The point of playing both clips was, though, just to point out, I mean, in this whole duck sand decision controversy, whatever's going on here, there are two sides to it. I mean, you do have some people that, seem to feel like there's no safety issue. Everything's going to be okay. And, while we certainly hope that's the case, we also want to make sure that everybody from the city up to the state is doing their due diligence and make sure that really is the case.
Right.
Because if an issue does happen, once it happens, it's too late to fix it.
Oh, yeah.
So if we did have a fire or an explosion or whatever, it's, at that point, it's just a finger pointing blame game.
Yeah, you can't put that genie back in the bottle.
No, you can't put it back in the bottle if we have an issue. So, I mean, I hope that it opens, it's safe, there's never an issue, everything goes forward.
Josh, here's what I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm hoping that everything is above board.
Right.
We get this thing opened up and we have 200 jobs for Bedford County residents. Okay. Now, I know it's been tossed 160.
Right.
When it maxes out, I hope it's 200. I hope that everything is safe for years to come. And I hope at the end of the day, there's not a lot of finger point and say, I told you so.
Right.
This was a combined effort and it succeeded. Right at the moment, speaking of clouds, there's a big cloud in front of us. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. And hope is, good. We want to have hope, but we need to also, live in reality and make sure that we're doing the due diligence, that there's transparency, that whatever comes out, whatever the state says, whatever the inspections find, that it doesn't get, buried in a report on somebody's desk that, magically doesn't make it out, that everybody, in the public knows what's actually going on. And I think that's the key that we're really looking for is,
at some point, Josh, I mean, it seems like everything that we look at each week gets down to our representatives.
Yeah.
They're making moves on our behalf. And I think if each representative that received votes to represent a block of people would actually listen to their constituents, go out and get their opinions on these things, ask them what they want done, and actually come back to the table and represent those folks, we won't have all this controversy. We won't be suing each other. We won't be fighting. We will be more unified, because I honestly think that the city residents and county residents are all one big family. Right now, we have, it looks like two separate families when you start looking at our representatives. And that's not good for the city and county. And it's not good for the environment of moving forward together. So that's what I would like to see happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Callback, win-win.
Exactly.
We're looking for win-win solutions.
Right.
We're not looking for the other side to lose. We're not looking to win at any cost. We're not looking to just give up and lose. We want to look for solutions where both sides are winners, and where eventually, like you said, we don't even end up with sides. I mean, we shouldn't have sides.
No.
I sit in on a city piece of property, and I've got two county commissioners that represent me and a city council person. So they should all be representing me, not picking a side and, fighting amongst themselves.
So hopefully in days, weeks, and months ahead, we'll start to see some of this friction subside. And I don't want us to be a source of friction. We want to point out what's going on so people can get informed. Honestly, this is not fake news. This is actual facts. And Josh, I appreciate you sitting down and going through these numbers so we can actually look at the facts and talk about what's really going on.
Yeah, and that's what we're here to do. Is just bring that transparency. Dig behind the press releases. If you base your whole news cycle on press releases, you're not going to get straight news from anywhere.
Right.
So sometimes you got to dig a little deeper than that.
Yeah.
So, and that's it for what happened this week. So we're going to hear from our sponsor one more time, and then we're going to talk about what's coming up next week, because next week is a busy one.
Yes, sir. We'll be right back.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance, all the good folks out there, and we appreciate them sponsoring the weekend wrap-up show. And Josh, I know you said we have a big week coming up. What's going on this coming week?
Or at least I personally have a full week.
Sure
I don't know about anybody else. But right off the gate, Monday morning, 10 o'clock a.m. is the first meeting ever of the all-new Shelbyville Planning Commission Growth Committee. I may be one of the handful of people that's actually excited about this in the county, in the city. This is a subcommittee of our planning commission from the city. They're going to sit down and look at something I've been harping on for months, increasing our standards.
Right.
Part of the reason we're getting this high density, cram every rooftop you can into every square foot of property is our standards are too low.
Right.
So they're looking at things like side setbacks. You shouldn't have two houses 10 or 15 feet apart. That hopefully, if this all goes according to plan, we're going to set a city minimum of a 10-foot side setback, which means 20. Every new building has to have 10 feet off the property line, which means 20 feet minimum between two houses. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but we don't have that standard, and what we get are houses that are right on top of each
our
other.
very own fire chief, city fire chief, was concerned about houses being 10 feet
Too
apart.
close. It's
in
a fire
crosswind.
hazard.
It's a major safety
It's a
issue.
fire hazard.
Yeah.
So, and it's a standard we don't have. But this committee is meeting to discuss that and possibly, hopefully, bring it to the full planning commission, which could then vote on it, send it to the council. They could approve it, and then we got a better standard.
Right.
Another big one that I've been concerned about is our green space. We currently only require 5% of a big development like this PUD that's about to be approved. Only 5% of it has to be usable green space. If you go to a city like Franklin or nicer areas, most of them, in Franklin in particular, they require 15% overall green space, and 10% of your property has to be usable green space. By usable, that means amenity. What we've got going else is crammed in there as close as you can, and nothing, no amenities, nowhere. They all got to go over to the rec center if they want to do anything.
Yeah.
So this is part of our ongoing discussion of planning in the area, and if we increase our standards, then by default we got to get better developments. Either that or the developers stop. So, and I don't think it doesn't look like development stopping. So how about we raise our standards and get better development?
Exactly. Makes common sense.
Yeah. So for me, an exciting meeting. Most other people probably put them to sleep, but I'll be there 10 o'clock Monday night.
You'll be there.
I'll be there. Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock, County Commission will be meeting for their monthly meeting in the historic courthouse on the square.
The historic
Courthouse. Nothing crazy on the agenda. However, this is the month where we get quarterly reports. It's 10 to 15 departments are supposed to give a report. Unfortunately, a decent number of them tend to not show up at these for whatever reason.
6 or 7.
Yeah, but one that could be of interest is our economic developer, Mr. Shane Hooper. This is when he normally would give his quarterly report. So if there's anything the county commissioners want to ask him, assuming he's one of the ones that shows up, this will be their chance to ask him on the record any questions they might have about some of his statements he's made recently, some of the statements from the city. If there's any questions, this would be the place to ask them. Thursday evening, 5 o'clock, we got a new elementary school ribbon cutting, Cartwright School, 5 o'clock. And I think you might be going to that.
I'm going to try
possibly.
my best to get there so we can do a video tour.
Yeah. So from 5 to 6, I believe, or maybe until 7, they're going to offer tours of the school. So after I'm sure there'll be some remarks and, people have to say things. Then we'll get the big scissors out, we'll cut the ribbon, take a bunch of pictures. And then after that, they're going to take groups throughout the school. So if you've got a kid that's zoned for there, or you're just curious because we spent a bunch of taxpayer money on this building, you're like, man, what did my dollars buy me? This will be your chance to go through, get a guided tour of the school, and kind of see what it looks like from the inside. So that'll be good.
Yeah, be on the lookout. We'll do something. I don't know if we can do live stream from there.
Maybe
I would love to, but
pictures.
we definitely will have videos and pictures.
We'll have something
ready for that.
And then the same evening, an hour later, which is why I may not be able to also make it to the ribbon cutting, we have our monthly city council meeting at 6 o'clock. Agenda had not been posted as of when I looked last night, but the council meeting, it should mirror what we talked about at the study sessions. So they should be voting on that PUD. There's a number of other issues they'll be voting on. One thing I forgot to cover just real quick in the study session, we talked a couple weeks ago about the boiler that went out at the rec center. And it had a service contract on it. And it didn't appear like the service had been done. So when we brought that up, and it actually, the city did say at that meeting specifically, they're digging into that service contract
see what happened.
To see if they can prove through documentation, A, that they had it, and B, that the service wasn't done, and possibly recoup some taxpayer money. Because that was like, what, $72,000.
Pretty expensive to replace.
To replace a boiler that shouldn't have gone bad as early as it did. So just something that's going on at the city, small thing. And then last thing on the agenda, and honestly, I don't know if I'll be going, but I'm going to bring it up because it's on my schedule. Friday and Saturday on the square, chili cook-off.
Man, I hope it cools down a little bit.
It is hotter than a firecracker out there, David, and we're going to eat chili on the square.
I don't see chili in July, but hey, they do it every year.
They do every year. They did it last year. I didn't go last year. Not sure I'm going this year. Again, if it's 95 degrees, I don't know that I want to eat chili on the square. But it'll be there. It's an event. It's open. You can, there's judging. It's actually supposedly a fairly big thing. Probably usually when we have stuff on the square, there'll be a car show or something to it you would expect. So go on down to the square Friday or Saturday. I went on the Facebook event page. It wasn't clear the hours. But I would say probably Friday afternoon and evening, probably Saturday, starting in the morning, a big chunk of the day. So look for more information on Facebook on that. And that's it for my week upcoming, other than stuff coming out of left field, which happens every week.
Left field is packed always.
But even without left field, that's a pretty long agenda for me. So I'm going to have some nights where I'm going to be skipping dinner to go to a meeting. So it'll be fun times. Yeah. So.
Well, Josh, thanks for all your hard work this week. And we appreciate everybody watching. But I want to remind you, visit our website. We have updates there. Also on our social media platform. Typically Facebook is where we put most everything, but visit our website at shelbyvillenow.com. We have obituaries constantly going up. You also can go to our live scanner link there and listen to what's going on with local law enforcement. It's live, and you can hear things happen as they happen. But again, thanks for watching. We'll be back same time, same